Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyana Habibi Ilahi Rabbil Alameen Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad wa alayhi tayyibin al-tahirin al-masumin al-mazlumin wa la'anatu ad-da'ima ala adaihim ajma'in من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم الكتاب المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين صدق الله العلي العظيم صلى على محمد وعلى محمد. Lesson 16, page number 235, which is on, obviously you might have figured out about sabr, يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. A very important character trait which is very much required for us humans to have, and perhaps it's also one of the key difference between us and animals as well. Sabr is one of that quality that is differentiate between us and animals. Further to that, sabr is one of the quality. Who have sabr? Who is sabir? Maybe anybody can help. Prophet? Allah. So first and foremost, as we said, whenever we try to analyze these character traits, we have to see that, all of them, they return back to God. And that's what God wants us to become like, because He has created us in His image, so we have to become like Him, right? And as we been given that potential, we kind of go in that direction sooner or later as well. A person who becomes older, for him to be sabir is much easier compared to someone who is young, for example, right? Because of experience, because of things that he has dealt with, this quality develops in him, right? So now we will be discussing that quality based obviously on the Quran and Sunnah. Those are the two major bases that we have. Sabr is one of those qualities that is not only related to us as an individual, it also related to the community as well. وَتَوَاصُوا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصُوا بِالصَّبْرِ, where it's been promoted as a community. These are the ones who are with the truth, they enjoin, and also they enjoin for the sabr as well. In another verse it says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا. O people who have brought iman, be sort of endure patience and excel in patience. There is isbiru, which is related to personally, and sabiru as a community as well. So this verse kind of points out to both reality, that the sabr should be individual and at the same time as a community as well. So it's a community at large and also vis-a-vis community, meaning that when we face the community, we have to be patient with the community, with the people. And as we mentioned earlier in the very beginning, perhaps Agha Shumali might have mentioned that when he was discussing about the importance of akhlaq, this was one of the qualities which stands out in the Ulul Azm prophets. As the Ulul Azm prophets were sabir, they've been given this, they were being considered because of this quality as Ulul Azm, because they had the most sabr in them, like Prophet Nuh, for example, where his own son requires that sabr, right? Prophet Musa, Prophet Isa, Prophet Ibrahim, these are like the champions. That's why they are Ulul Azm. And obviously the Khatamun Nabiyyin, where the Prophet says no prophet have gone through what he has gone through, and this is what perhaps one of the reason that makes him higher in terms of his daraja, because he was so sabir, right? So this quality, puts him on a higher rank than the ulul azm prophets, because of their sabr, puts them on the higher rank. We hear about other prophets not being that patient, but they are still prophets, like the great story of the, Hazrat Yunus. He wasn't really sabir in that sense of the word. Obviously he was, but he was kind of rectified, of what he has done. Or Hazrat Yusuf, for instance, he was Hazrat Yaqub, Hazrat Ayub, all of them, they have this, they reach it to a limit, and then, they just not loses it, but they say, it's enough now. Massani adhur, when Hazrat Ayub finds out that his wife have sold her, hair in order to feed him, for example, according to some narrations, that you said, what's going on? He was given maraz, he was given all of these different, he was kicked out of the community. He had such a vast estate, right? He has children and whatnot, and eventually he was kicked out because of the illness he got, to the extent where the wife going and working in people's houses and stuff like that, to the extent where she sells the hair to feed him. Then he says, Massani az-zur. Now, this zur, this pain, this difficulty have touched me. Now it is enough. Then everything returned back. There was a lady who comes to the sixth Imam, and she complains, my son gone on a trip, and he has not returned. I'm really stressed and eager. What's going on? Imam says, endure patience, sabr, and then advises her, and then she goes back. After a while, she comes back again, still, in the stress, and I can't, it is enough for me now. So your son have already arrived. Then she was like, oh, okay. Then she goes back, and the son was there. Then she was like shocked. How come Imam knew? Is this wahi happen or what happened? Then she said, okay, let's go. She took the son along with her to Imam, and she said, how did you know? So the Imam said that there is a hadith from the Prophet which says that when sabr reaches to that brim, then there is relief. Then there is faraj after that. So based on that hadith, when I saw you in this state that you just can't bear, I said, okay, Allah have tested you. Because la yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa, Allah doesn't test. And you and I also go through this. We go through a period of lot of problems, issues, masaib. We bear with this, Jafar Tayyar, Ziyarat Ashura, Sadaqa, Hadith Kisa, du'as, this amal, that amal, Qurbani. It reaches to a point, they say, oh man, come on. Oh God, that's enough now, please. And then gradually things become okay. Once the things become okay, we tell to ourselves, oh, why did I say it's okay? I should have got more sawab. Obviously we know there is sawab in being patient, right? Then again, God kind of tests us. Then we say, okay, man, it's enough now. Then it's an ongoing thing. Amirul Mu'minin says that for a moment, 40 days doesn't pass, he is faced with some sort of bala which will remind him, will give him tazakkur. So a moment is always, a state of test, to really increase his sabr, increase his patience, increase those, good traits and qualities that he has in him. Because on the surface, like as we said, things are pretty cool. When we are having fun, things are habitual, things are going okay. Our namaz is okay, our du'as are all right. We are happy, smiling, enjoying. But as soon as that test comes, that's the time to be the same. That's the time to really remain cool and calm. We go on a trip of ziyarat, all of a sudden, Agha Datul misses her passport, loses our passport, which he takes Hajj caravan, masalan, then that's the time, our patience is tested. We will be so upset. These people, they don't know anything. Organization will be, we lose it, right? On the surface, when everything is good, iltamas dua with a smile and muhabbat and everything. But as soon as something goes wrong, it's left and right. There will be nothing remaining in the dictionary that we will not use, perhaps in our heart or whatnot. So sabr is one of those things that is very important, that we somehow, as they say, that the thamaratul iman sabr, the fruit of iman is patience. And also asas iman is sabr. You have the both ways, like as we were talking about truthfulness and speaking the truth makes the iman stronger gradually and gradually. And at the same time, if a person has stronger iman, he will also have, speak the truth as well. So he has both. Always you will find this approach. Yes. The foundation, asas is the foundation of our iman, is considered as patience, right? Or the head of iman, ras or iman, as they say, is considered as patience. So patience is very important, that we need to, acquire through. Now, patience doesn't mean, some of the misconceptions that we may have in regards to the patience is that we might think that patience means to just, be kind of just let it go. Whatsoever is happening, let it happen. We become completely immune, as if nothing. No. Patience means that we fulfill our responsibility, we persevere. We fight against the situation that we are in. Fight meaning that we struggle, we, take means to resolve it, to solve it, to connect to God. If certain things that it is beyond our control, قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. That's the responsibility, not that you just, even إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, even saying that is an indication of sabr. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, right? As Allah says. Glad tidings to those who are enduring patience. And what they say? They say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Uttering that. Meaning that believing that, okay, it happens, okay, fine. It is from God. We return to God. Famine happened, loss of life happened, whatever happened. So this is not being passive, but rather this is being active. Rather this is accepting what has happened, and at the same time having that iman in God and carrying on. If really, when you look at certain, problems that a person faces, if they don't have iman, they lose it completely. They go in depression, issues happen, they become very weak, right? At least for a certain amount of period. It will take them a long time to gather themselves. But here, the amount of teachings and, the amount of iman that, alhamdulillah, our community, our brothers and sisters have, it really helps us to really come back to normal, in terms of whatever we face. As a community, there's a support and help. If there is a loss of life, people visit, people, and particularly in regards to the marifati aspect, in regards to that sort of knowledgeable aspect of every ungiven situation that a person faces. In every musibat happen, remember Hussein. A person kind of takes that remorse, that sort of refuge in that masayib of Imam Hussein. Often used to think that, every time there's shahadat of a imam or musibat, they eventually go back to the masayib of Imam Hussein. They will talk about Imam Mirza, eventually they'll go Imam. They'll talk about Imam Hassan Askari, they'll go back. Imam Baqir. Because every musibat happens, you have to remember Hussein. It's something that is advised, by the imams themselves. In every musibat, remember me. So, therefore, alhamdulillah, to a certain extent, with sort of brotherhood, with community network, with community that we live in, with some sort of understanding that we have, we try to cultivate, we try to improve this quality in us. So sabr, being patient, doesn't mean that being bitaraf, or as they say that, just being let it go. When we have an exam, the students study. struggles. He doesn't do sabr, just sit like that, ideally. No. It's very difficult when he's facing. So he tries it. He reads it more. He tries it over and over again. He fails it. Then he tries to improve it. Takes lessons, internet, research, so on and so. This is sabr. This is an indication of being patient. If we say that patient means that, okay, tamam, sure, let's sit ideal. No. Sabr is. Now here in this verse, for example, it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ista'inu, means takes help from sabr was salat. Usually here some of the exegetes, they point out to this sabr means fasting. Because that is the practical example of sabr, that when a person is fasting, he's being patient in front of not eating, not drinking, right. So here they say it's, but however, the mu'mineen have been asked to seek help, take help from sabr, when they face an issue and a problem. Now, this is a very famous hadith, which is from the Prophet, where he describes, and we have heard this a lot of times from our scholars, our elders, our seniors, as-sabru thalath. There are 3 types of sabr. Can anybody tell? You know this. Come on. There are 3 types of sabr. When do we endure patience? Bismillah. When we are hungry. Okay. That's a type. Yes, indeed, it's sabr. Alhamdulillah, I finished my chai today, so I'm not being sabr. No, the hadith of the Prophet, that there's like 3 types of sabr been described. So I'm looking at that. Yeah. Yes. Okay, good. Yes. Specifically about that hadith, that 3 elements of sabr. Very famous. If I say one, I think things will come back to you. Anybody from the sister side? Who said something? Sabr? Sabr Jamila, indeed. Inna Allah Jamilun yuhibbul Jamal. God is beautiful and He loves Jamal. Right? Sabr in front of itaat. Right? Sabr vis-a-vis in front of obedience to God. Right? Hunger comes in that when we are fasting. Now, in front of fasting, we have to do sabr. So the Prophet says there are 3 types of sabr. So he kind of brought the whole phenomena of sabr into 3 realities. A person have to be patient in front of these 3 things. In front of ita'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wake up in Fajr time. Oh my God. In winter. Right? It's not easy. Right? One have to be patient. One have to do sabr. Hajj. One have to be patient. Ziyarat, for example, in front of the mustahabbat is ita'at, indeed. Wajibat first comes, right? So one have to be really endure that patience in front of ita'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be obedient. And that's how things are tested, slowly and slowly, in different forms of ibadat. So what does that mean? That means that we have to perform it in the best possible way. Okay, Fajr, it's very tiring to wake up. Wuzu, just do tayammum, man. Why? Because I want to go back to sleep. No. We have to do wudu. Okay, fine, I will not open my eyes, for example. I'll do wudu. So, somehow we are taking one step towards fulfilling our responsibilities towards this itaat. I will do proper wuzu, I will be awake, I will pray properly. One have to be patient. Then sabr, as-sabr indal musiba, in front of musibat, in front of calamities that befell upon us. We have to be patient. Right? As this dunya is a place of matal ghurur, as they say. As this dunya is a place of imtihan, a test. There will always be musibat. It is not possible that there be no difficulties. It's just not possible, right? Everything goes smoothly, right? From that time of birth, which we don't really remember how we were in the belly of the mother and how difficult it was for us. That's where it starts. And to come out, that child goes through a trauma, goes through, if that child could remember that birth, that crying is an indication that it is difficult. That hunger, it's indication that it is difficult, right? It's all different types and levels of musibah, right? So one have to be patient in front of all these physical sort of musibah, spiritual musibahs. For example, anything, is deprived of, now particularly in regards to the occultation of the Imam. It is a musibah for the mu'mineen. We are deprived. Ilahi adham al-bala. You say, azim is a balai azim, right? That we cannot. But we have a responsibility towards the 12th Imam. What we are supposed to do. We are supposed to remember him. We are supposed to pray for him. Like, I think I mentioned that Ayatollah Bahauddini has a saying. He says that, pray for the 12th Imam in the prayers itself, in the qunut, he says. And he advises that this is a hukm of agha, meaning that Imam himself have asked that we should pray for the Imam in the prayers, such as like one of the qunut we could dedicate to the Imam, right? So different ways of fulfilling our responsibility towards this sabr, that musibat befall upon us. Qalu inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We come from God, we return to God. Here in musibah, we have to have a deeper understanding of it. Knowledge is needed for us to make that sabr a good sabr. Like there could be an earthquake. We say, oh, what is this? God is allowing this evil to happen, for example. So our understanding, our ma'rifat of knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala needs to be strong. Yes, these are natural disasters that happens. There's a reason for it, why it happens. Everything is because of the hikmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you might have doing the theology, about that special story of Musa. He says, why did you create cockroaches? Musa, God says, more interesting, just now the cockroach asked me, why did you create human beings, right? So everything has a purpose. There's a reason behind everything. It's when masa'ib happens, musibat happens. We think that death is really a musibah. Yes, it is something musibah, but if one looks at the ma'rifah, there was a given time hadith from the 6th Imam in Mizanul Hikmah, which says that God lifted, people complain of death. God lifted it. And it became so difficult, grandfathers to really take care of them. It becomes problematic. And finally they said, okay, what is right, please put it back, So it was brought back to them, right? So we miss, it's musibah, it's difficult, but at the same time, we should have the ma'rifat of why that is happening, in order that it helps us. At the same time, we will feel the pain. We will feel the difficulty, when there's a loss. So sabr in front of musibah, meaning that we have to fulfill our responsibilities towards this masa'ib and musibah that happens with the iman. Then finally, what that could be, a sabr in front of ita'at, in front of musibah, and one more, according to the Prophet. Fitra. Right. Good times. Yes, you could find that, but in this particular hadith, what do you mean by fitra? Why did you say sabr? What does exactly you mean?
I feel like the first one is obedience to Allah. So these are your kind of requirements almost, I think, that exist for you to follow from a good Muslim. Second are the tests that you are probably non-related to anything you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the third probably should be something inherent within you. I was thinking perhaps types of challenges related to that within
Mhm.
yourself.
Within the fitrah, so to speak. The third one, the Prophet says, is in front of ma'asiyah. When you face a sin, you have to be patient, because you want to commit that, but you should not. In front of a sin. Sabr. Indal musiba, sabr ala ta'a wa sabr anil ma'asiyah. And the third one is the sabr from that ma'asiyat, that because committing a sin there's a lot of passion in it. One is attracted towards it. One wants to do it, right? Perhaps, yeah. Desire, your desire is to control oneself requires sabr. To control oneself requires that sabr. Many stories are been mentioned. There was a lady who attracted a young lad, but he put his hand on top of that candle, which was fire, and burnt. And then the lady saw this, and she says, for example, why? He says, I'm worried about the fire of akhirah, for example, to control that, to distract himself, for example, right? Many things, Ibn Sirin is one of the famous story of his. Either he was a fire or he does something very silly. When a lady kind of attracted him, he goes to the toilet, put the filth on him, and then she just kicked her out or something. And then God gave him the power to interpret the dreams. That's how he became. God gave him that, inspired him, because he did sabr, in front of that desire he had. Yeah. Vale. There's another story of the 12th Imam. There was a person who used to sell, like on the bridge, just make a small, like a store, or they sell cigarettes or something, very little things in. And there was a Maulana, so to speak, an Akhund, who eventually was given a high sort of maqam or status which doesn't really belong. He hasn't ever studied, but he claimed himself to be, and people started praying behind him and so on and so forth. And a title was given to him, and then he was passing by. This man kind of not disrespect him, did not call him with those titles. He said, why did you, I'm something so and so on. And then he gave some of the secrets that he was aware of, this man. And they were shocked. Why? What happened? And he did not reply. Then he came again. Finally, he said that, the Imam have informed him and have asked him. Then he says that the Imam tells me this. Then he says, how do you get in touch with the Imam? He says that if you come out of this sort of status that you have, and then you go and do basic tabligh in the villages, because he was raised to a higher status, then you will be able to meet the Imam. So basically, that desire of having status and maqam and fooling people, for example, now which he is not really, right? So he took that, status, which is cheating. He is lying in a way. So sabr in front of any masiyah, then he will be purified. He will be able to have that irtibat, that relationship, with that Imam, with the Imam. So it's very difficult in front of sins to control oneself, to control when there is a gossip going on. It's so tasty to really enjoy, when a couple of people, to control oneself, not to make fun of, a couple of friends together, one kind of takes a kick out of it, or try to bother someone, or a lot, for example, some sort of a little bit mizah is okay, but not personal, and one should not extend it so much that a person becomes if a person, especially when he or she is sensitive, you got to be very careful. So really to control that, not to take, which is haram, riba, interest, all of these things, we somehow want to make a Kulai Shari, as they say, a Shariat hat, and use that Shariat itself to, to use it, to make use of it somehow, right? So that we try to halalify it, right? So one have to be patient, in front of something that is haram. One should not really indulge. And as you go higher level, ones do ihtiyat, ones try to avoid completely, right? So these are the three levels of sabr that has been discussed, and there's a very beautiful hadith which kind of points out to these three different levels from the Prophet, which I was just going through another book, and I found this very interesting. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I lost the... Yes. Okay. It says that, what are the signs of sabr? The Prophet is saying the signs, the nishan-e-hai sabr. First thing is, one should not be lazy. One should not be lazy. Number two is, one should not be restless, and the heart should not be small, tight, restless, and not being. The third thing is, never complain to God. So these are the three signs of sabr. Now he continues, the Prophet continues, says, because if a person is lazy, he will let go the haqq. Somebody snatched my haqq. Oh, I should be lazy. Oh, sabr. Let's go. It's okay. My haqq is taken away. I shouldn't be lazy. I should try to get it back. Right? So, signs of sabr is one should not be lazy. Right? So, a person, it's not sabr to just have, just be sort of, idle. One have to try to get the haqq. So, one should not be lazy, because if he becomes lazy, then he will not go, he will let go his haqq, let go his what he deserves. Then, if he is, very sort of, how shall I say, short-tempered, or is restless, if he becomes restless, then he will not do shukr. He will not thank God, because he will be complaining. Because this happened, he's under stress and he has become restless, the element of shukr will not happen. Then, when he complains to God, he will end up doing masiyat. You are questioning God, you are complaining to God, oh, what does this happen? Then this is like, it's masiyat. You're going against, what God have decreed, decided, hikmat, and all that. If one really complains. So one is not to be lazy. Two is not to be under stress, right? Three is not to complain about what happened. Now, if he is not lazy, if he is lazy, then he will let go his right. If he is restless, then he will not thank God. One should be thankful to God in all affair. And number three, if he complains to God, then he's doing and ended up doing masiyat. In another hadith, which kind of points out to these three types of sabr in a more detail, he says, "Tasbiru fi dharrai kama tasbiru fi sarrai." Be patient in dharra, in sort of difficulties, kama tasbiru, the same way as you were patient where things at happiness and joy. So that means that when you are patient in terms of musibat, in problems, the same way as you were patient when you were having good time. When you were having good time, you were fulfilling your responsibilities. You are not letting it go in a more peaceful manner or in a calm way. You are not losing it, for example. So when you are patient in the same way, fulfilling the responsibilities, this means that even in musibat, which one have to endure patience, meaning fulfill that responsibilities. Kama tasbiru. Wa fil faqati kama tasbiru fil ghina. In faqa, in hunger, you be patient the same way as you were when you were rich, when you were having ghina. Wa fil bala'i kama tasbiru fil afiya. In terms of the bala, you do the same as the time of afiya. When you were healthy, you were fulfilling you were thanking God, so on and so forth. So one have to فَلَا يَشْكُو حَالَ عِنْدَ الْمَخْلُوقِ بِمَا يُصِيبُ مِنَ الْبَلَاءِ. And do not yashku, do not do shikayat, do not complain. In this hala, in the makhluk, near the makhluk, near the people. Right? بِمَا يُصِيبُ مِنَ الْبَلَاءِ, from what it has reached to you in terms of the bala. So, once again, this question of this answer of the Prophet, when he was asked in regards to the tafsir of sabr, Prophet mentioned this. So these are the elements that one could really find in terms of sabr, and obviously there's a great reward for those who do sabr. It's amazing reward, بغير حساب. God is saying that those who be patient in front of musibah, difficulties, in front of sins, for example, God will, God will reward them without any hisab. There is no calculation what he rewards. Ibn Sirin, he protected himself from a sin. Look how famous still today. Interpretation of dreams of Ibn Sirin is famous. And he says that, because he was nothing, he was of like a layperson, right? But, he becomes, so famous. God gave him that. بغير حساب. He should interpret dreams. Today we have his books as well in English translated, and right, very famous scholar. So there's a lot of reward. And it's one of the good qualities that we all need to acquire, we all need to have. It helps us. So we should have that marifati aspect, that knowledge of that particular knowledge of the sin, so that we be patient. What is this? If somebody, for example, Shaitan comes and does waswas to me that, oh, mashallah, you are such a great person. Look, you are so religious. Look, other people are. So, how am I? Really nothing. I should have that marifat. Yeah, you are nas antumul fuqara. I'm faqir. I have no value. Right? If I don't have, people come and say, for example, look, these people, they are so rich, and look how they make money, how he became famous by, by pleasing few of his bosses, by doing this and that. You do the same. I said, what this maqam is given by God. He did some of those things which haram. Why will I indulge myself? I do sabr. And God is the provider of it. He will provide me, if he wants to provide me, right? Itaat the same way, with that ibadat, having the marifat of what that ibadat is, right? So inshallah, practically speaking, we could reflect upon our daily actions and see, am I really being patient in front of it or not? And how much I could stress my patient. I finish my prayers, I have to rush. No, I will do sit and do tasbih, relax. I'm stressed, I go do sajda, a bit longer sajda. So that's how we need to test. Yes, we have other responsibility. Not that, okay, Maulana Sahib said, Subah se Sham tak, then we are in the masjid only, for example. We have to pick up the kids, drop the children, go to work. All of those things are there. No, I'm doing sabr in front of itaat now. No. So we have to balance it. Like last week we talked about moderation. Everything needs to be well balanced. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Yes.
Sheikh, in the first session downstairs, we had a bit of a discussion on free will. So in terms of connecting with sabr, is the tests that are imposed upon us or we face are a combination of people's probably free will choices that maybe are inadvertent,
Mm-hmm.
as well as the choice of Allah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how we see the test of sabr in general, or is it just Allah that makes these tests?
Yes, it could be through the choices of the people, which the individual people's free will is in connection with the metaphysical will of God, perhaps not legislative, will of God, not horizontal way. But at the same time, you have, sabr, like in front of musiba, an earthquake happened. You said it's not in people's hand as such. Or sins, the sins that we face, the desires that we have, to really do something, which is against the, so to say, sharia or haram or makruh, for example, right? So it's not necessarily with the will of our community or people around us.
Are they distinguishable in terms of the in eyes of Allah, that if He places a test on us versus a test by another human, does He see our response to either of those in a better light than the other?
No, it's all the same. How much we are exercising our iman when we are facing all of these three types of musiba, all these three types of elements where sabr is required.
Whichever one we feel the pain ultimately is going to be rewarded based on that.
Yes. Pain, test, what we learn, the outcome of it. Like Imam Hussein, it was the people. It was not like, an earthquake or, a sin, but rather it was by the people, for example, here. Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Technically, if somebody is tested by somebody else, is also the will of Allah, because there has to be Zaria.
Yes, yeah, definitely. In Surah Ankabut, if you look at have you, said that you have brought iman and you will not be tested? Definitely. When somebody says they have iman, they will be tested. And those who ashaddu bala, the shadid bala is for the anbiya, is for the prophets. People who of iman have greater test. Something stronger they are tested with, because the reward for them is stronger as well, is greater as well. That's why, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qulubana ala dinik, or qalbi ala dinik, for example, when Durara asked the Imam how it will be in the akhirah, the akhir zaman, to keep that iman, it will be like putting a fire ball, like a charcoal on the hand. It will be that difficult. Then, so what they should do, Imam, he said, okay, recite this dua. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Make that iman stronger. It's not really easy, to have such a belief on the 12th Imam and carry on. We've been attacked left and right, from inside and outside, and there's a lot of doubts being created, but still to have that strong belief in that iman on the Imam.
Given Allah is all-knowing, why would He test us with a view to judge us as well?
Right. Because of because we are in a process of becoming. Right. So this test is necessary for us to become more, to reach higher. It's like how child grows. So he has to go through these all issues so that he become, intellectual, understanding, so test is that.
What's the reason for creation then? For us to become
Which is having the marifat. which eventually ends up having that knowledge. Yes, that's the purpose of creation, is that the creation should have the ma'rifat of the Lord. Right?
Forgive me, but marifat
Is understanding,
understanding.
knowledge, understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now Allah is aware of it, but the judgment and the judgment day is because we will forget. Not that God doesn't know, because we might deny it, and we tend to always forget. You said this, or you did this, or you borrowed this, and you have to give. When at the time when I take, I remember, but after 5 years, my brother comes to me and asks me, "You borrowed money, or whatever, for example, you did this," and we will say, "Oh, I never did that. It's just not possible." So that's why they say write it down, right? So on the day of judgment, we might deny, "Oh, I never did this. What you talking about," right? But it says right here, see, everything is recorded. Not because Allah does not have knowledge of, He's knowledgeable and He knows, He's Khabir, right? But for us to really see that reality and truth of our own self.
So do you mean that if we were punished, for example,
Mm-hmm.
without being tested, the human would say, "Well, why did you punish me
Yes,
for that without actually testing me?"
without, yes, because I failed the test without testing me. Yeah.
But does that in a way go against the whole premise of creation, which is to gain the marifah or gain closeness to Allah?
Mm-hmm.
Just that whole principle of rewarding or punishing based on what Allah sees.
The rewarding and punishing is more marifa, punishing is less marifa. So it kind of becomes that. When it's hellfire, okay, what is hellfire? Is the non-existence of the rahmah and mercy and knowledge and the kamalat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes. Yes, Bismillah, last question here. Yes, on the first level is those things which are haram, gunaha kabira, maslam, the greater sins, and then the minor sins, obviously, and then makruhat. There's sort of different levels of it. They say that whenever you ask this ulama of akhlaq, they will say tarkul masiya, and then fulfillment of wajibat, leaving what is haram and fulfilling what is wajib. That is more than enough for the tazkiyatun nafs, for the purification of the soul. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In terms of thanklessness, why you did this, I'm facing this trouble, I'm having this musibah, right? Complaining in the sense where you are seeking aid from Allah, that is different. You have this problem, oh Allah, please resolve this. I'm not complaining, I'm taking help here. But complaining is where, why? What did I do wrong? Yeah. Yes.
What was the verse in Surah Yusuf where he says that I complain of my anguish and my grief to Allah? What is that complaint about?
That is the prison sentence being extended. He's been there for such a long period.
He's also complaining about something wrong that's been done to him. That's not forgiven from my understanding.
Yes. In the sense that he hasn't committed that sin, but he's been punished for that. He's put in the prison for the thing that he has not committed, And on the other hand, he was tested and he passed the test, but still, he's, in prison, So he kind of relied upon the prisoner, his inmate, for his relief and release, rather than relying on God. Because he told he interpreted the dream that you will become the cook and you remember me near your Aziz. So he kind of showed his sort of restlessness, or in a way, that he thought of Aziz to free him rather than that Aziz, rather than God.
What's wrong with that though? Is there anything wrong in terms of?
No, for us no, but for the Prophet yes. Perhaps for us, I mean,
Wasila, for example.
yeah, but somebody who is of that caliber, they are treated that way. Like for example, he did not stand up when his father came. God said, I'm taking prophecy from your lineage. No children of yours will become prophet, because you did not stand up for when Hazrat Yaqub, when your father came. You were still sitting on your throne. Well, it's nothing, it's not haram. I mean, the Anbiya are masoom, obviously they cannot commit a sin. But in terms of Prophet made the Salatul Layl wajib upon him. It was not wajib, but he made it wajib upon him. Right? Because of the caliber, status that the person have, expectation, that God expects, so to speak, or oneself should expect from oneself to be in that state. One should be in that sort of state of presence of God. If one have that huzur, that presence of God. I mean, you would see among the scholars, for example, Jawad Amili, I always use this example, he will not recline. He will not sit like this. There's nothing wrong in it. You would always see him, even in his car, he will just sit like that. In his mimbar, he'll sit like, when he's giving a lesson, he's never reclined. In a public place, private, he's always just like this. Because perhaps of the huzur, of the presence of God, of the things that are around, which doesn't really allow him to just be relaxed, be forgetful sort of that presence. If you have a scholar here, how you would be like, very respectful, so we are, wa ma'akum aina ma kuntum. Wherever you are, there's God with you. So how I should be all the time. I should be always like on the edge, so to speak. This should reflect in my reflexes, in my body, in my, I should always be thinking of that, right? But okay, it's all right, one can be relaxed, perhaps, there's nothing wrong, haram in it. So depending on the daraja of the person, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi. Thank you very much.